Good morning and happy Friday to everybody. Good to see y'all. Hope everyone's enjoying your last few weeks of summer. We have an exciting interview coming up this morning with Angela Caraway. She is the executive director of the Caraway Foundation. So just a few quick announcements before we begin. The first is to be sure to mark your calendars. Our next monthly coalition meeting is scheduled for next Friday, the 19th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Really looking forward to seeing everyone, connecting and updating y'all on a number of items. We're also going to have a dedicated discussion about grants. Super excited about that. So be on the lookout for the agenda. Also, a reminder to check out the coalition's social media pages. Shane has made several posts about the progress report, and you can find those on our LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook pages. Lastly, before we get started, just be sure to write your name and organization in the comment box. Post any questions you have along the way. With that, we'll go ahead and kick things off, Heather.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, Coalition. It's great to see everyone. We've got a nice group. And we are super, super excited to have Angela Caraway here. As Virginia said, she's the executive director of the Caraway Foundation. And we already warned her, Virginia and I already have a lot of questions for her. So I invite anyone who has additional questions. I've got some, but when you get the chance, feel free to put them in the chat and I will add them in. But Angela, welcome.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. And I placed in the chat too, thank you for the birthday wishes. That means a lot, especially with my story. That means a lot. So I'm so happy to be here. So thank you for inviting me.
Oh, good. And I'm glad, yes, you did have a birthday recently. It was a big one. I'm still a little older than you, but yeah, it's the awesome one. And actually, I want to talk about that a little bit because I'm very impressed with what I know about your background. But first of all, take a minute. Tell us what the Caraway Foundation is, and then we're going to go back because I want to hear about what were your experiences that shaped you and to start the foundation.
Yeah, thank you. The Caraway Foundation is a 501c3, and we're based in Anson County. I normally would say here because I am here in Anson County. I did the big move last year back home. Anson County is home for me. And our focus at the time was to provide educational resources to underprivileged kids, as well as those who wanted to continue their education. So I shouldn't just say kids. So it's, anyone who's going to school. But that changed over the course of years, and as well as my life. When my life changed, we added some additional things to the foundation. So now our focus is more on educational resources, but also support for those who are dealing with some type of chronic illness, whether it's a stroke or cancer, lupus, you name it, we provide support there. So we're based in a rural area. I'm in love with my county, and it makes my heart smile with the things that we do. So I'm blessed to be able to live out my passion and work in the community.
Well, this is wonderful. And there's a lot we're going to dive into. We're excited about the educational initiatives. But of course, since we are the North Carolina Serious Illness Coalition, we're going to get into your interest in chronic disease and serious illness. But yes. Take us back. Where did you grow up? What were some of the experiences? So now we all know where you are now, but there had to have been an interesting path that brought you here.
Yeah. So I grew up here in Anson County in a small town called Ansonville. And I would tell you that my father, the man that I call my daddy, was a state trooper, and we lived in Clinton, and we eventually moved back to Anson County because they separated, eventually got divorced. But so I grew up in Ansonville. No stoplight, just very small town. A major highway runs right through it, and it was surrounded. I grew up around my aunts and uncles and cousins, and my grandmother, who was known to bake, and so we learned to appreciate all the things that she used to do as grandma, because she did not graduate from high school. I think it was she dropped out maybe 6th or 8th grade, but she instilled the importance of education within us. And she sat down and helped us with homework as much as she could. And she made sure that we did our part in the community, which meant when she baked a sweet potato pie, we had to take it to Miss Eloise and that kind of thing. So we grew up around giving back and doing those types of things in the community. So that has always been instilled in me to do things to give back, to improve not only our family, but to improve the community and do those types of things. So I've always known that I would do something around that, because that's what we do. That's exactly what we do.
And I know you weren't always in North Carolina, because I saw you had some time in DC, as I did. So at some point you weaved and did some work with a group of nonprofits, because I did. And so tell us a little bit about, you left and then you came back home.
Yeah, I'm a graduate of NC State. Go Pack, red and white for life. Yay. And I wasn't sure what I really wanted to do when I was in college. I wanted to do everything. So I dabbled in social work. I dabbled in education. I was going to be a math teacher, then become a principal, be a superintendent. And then I was like, oh, you really got to love that work because you don't get paid enough. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll come back to that. But let me do some marketing. I wanted to create these product launches and create these elaborate product launches and events. And then I found out about the world of event planning. I worked at Raleigh Marriott, Crabtree Marriott, and I found out about that world. And that just set me on go. And I eventually moved to Washington, D.C., where the world of associations live, and began to work, followed that kind of path around event planning. And then I eventually moved back to North Carolina and worked at St. Augustine's College, then now St. Augustine's University. And I was their director of marketing and event planning, went to Duke, and then I started my own business. And I have had my own business since 2004, coordinating events, conferences. NC State is one of my clients. I coordinate their event called Packapalooza, which happens in a couple of weeks, August 27th. Y'all come on out. And I just been doing that, been loving event planning. I love taking someone's idea, doing all those things. So then merging the foundation and event planning is just a nice marriage, because that's all. It's about all we do is figure out how to raise money, and events can certainly can do that. So yeah, I had a great time in DC, learned lots, but my heart was always in North Carolina. So I knew I would eventually move back home. Yeah. Okay,
so then now I think we're at the part of the story, and I saw a little bit for those, there's a great, you have a great website. I should tell everyone, we should do a shout out to the carawayfoundation.org. And so I did see a little sneak peek, because I did look at the about, but how did you take all your interest in event planning and giving back and getting more connected or reconnected with your community? How did the Caraway Foundation, where was the spark for it to be born?
Someone was coming in and there's this loud sound. So I didn't want that. Okay. So some people, I feel like some people think my story is crazy, but it really isn't. This is exactly how it happened. I was living my best life, as they say, living your best life and doing all the things. I was single. I'm still single, but I was living my best life and doing all the things, and just, not thinking about, to be honest with you, not really thinking about how to give back, or back at home. And so I happened to go to the grocery store one night to get milk, eggs, and cheese. Now, I'm a believer, and I believe that God speaks to me. He helps me make, especially big decisions. I realize I can't do that by myself, because I just don't do it well. And I just listen, and he speaks to me in different ways. So I happened to go into Kroger, grocery store in Garner, and to get milk, eggs, and cheese. I love some cheese. And I went in there And I walked down this aisle, and this aisle had everything except groceries. Like it had a picnic table, it had a grill, backpacks, school supplies, all this stuff. And I remember saying, man, grocery stores are not just grocery stores anymore. So I'm looking at all the stuff on now. And I walked out of that aisle, turned left to head to get my milk, eggs, and cheese. Grabbed those, didn't get a grocery cart because I didn't need it. 3 items, I'm good. But then I came back up that same aisle. As I got ready to turn, now back up the same aisle, there's a grocery cart. It's like, that wasn't there whenever I came down, but okay. So put the items in there, went back up the aisle, and I was like, wow, these items are on sale. Oh man, they're 75% off. Well, God knows that I love a good sale. And I was like, ooh, that'll make that backpack like $3. Are you serious? So this voice says, buy all the backpacks. And I was like, why would I buy all the backpacks? Because I don't have not one child, nor I know any kids that's going to school, because my niece was at the time was like 3. And I just kept moving. Then back before I got to the middle of the aisle, the voice says again, buy all the backpacks. And I was like, okay, let me see. So I get all the backpacks in my buggy, along with all the stuff. I don't know, it was $168.34 later. So I was like, that's the most expensive milk, eggs, and cheese I've ever purchased. And I walked out and loaded it up in my SUV and went home and wrote out what the Caraway Foundation was going to do, which was to come back to Anson County, do these seminars on how to prepare for college. And I would give out the backpacks to the first person who came, or the first person to ask a question, because I just knew it would be easy and people would show up. Well, there were times that no one would show up. I would drive 2 hours home, stop and get some croissants from Burger King or biscuits, had a little, breakfast, and maybe one person showed up. But that one person received all the information that we had. And I was just like, I had to keep telling myself, it doesn't matter how many people, it was about that person that came, and that person should still receive the information. And that's what happened. And that's how the Caraway Foundation started.
Yeah, that is such an amazing origin story. I mean, and I had read that, and then yesterday, actually, I was rushing through, and I went through the aisles of CVS, and I saw a backpack. And so for you, yours was a big God moment. For me, it was an Angela moment. So it's God and then Angela right next to her. And I was like, there was a backpack, and I'm like, does Angela want me to get that? It's because I had seen.
Yeah, please go back and get them. We do have a back to school bash on next Sunday. So if anybody want to grab some, or if you have old backpacks or conference bags that you use, send them to me. I'll put my address in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So we'll make sure to put that out to the group afterwards if you have. But all right. So then you have these amazing beginnings. And I have to say, since we did reference your birthday, happy birthday again. And you did share, you had the big 50 last week. But this was like 15 years ago. I mean, you did, if I did the math right. So this was amazing that in your mid-30s, you start this amazing experience. And then tell us now, you went from those sort of humble beginnings of a few people and a backpack. And then now you've grown. Tell us about your different programs and initiatives. And of course, clearly we're going to want to know about your Village of Strength program. So I did a little segue.
Nice. Yeah. So from the start of the milk, eggs, and cheese, and doing these seminars on how to prepare for college, it just kind of grew into wanting to do a little bit more than just that. And back in I think it was 2012 or 2013, I met an organization via my work around event planning. Someone reached out to me because they were this guy reached out to me because they were looking for a band. Someone told them to reach out to me, that I could probably find them someone right away. And I was able to do that. And I asked, like, what do you do? And so it was Cramden Institute, and I got connected with them. They told me what they did. And I said, well, you need to do that in Anson County. Like, your mission is to make sure every household in the state has a computer. Well, then you haven't done Anson County yet. Let's merge together. Let's partner. I should say partner, and do this in Anson. And that's how we started our refurbished computer program, working with them. That kicked off at the elementary school where my mother was teaching. So that was a good start there. And so we provided and have since provided desktops and laptops to households here in the county since 2012. And, so that's been great doing that, along with a youth leaders program. I'm sure you guys have heard of either Leadership Triangle, Leadership Raleigh, Leadership North Carolina. So we have a Leadership Anson, and I wanted to take that program to kind of scale it down to a more youthful program. And we did that with the middle school. So we have 7th and 8th graders, and we take them through this program to learn more about leadership, but also just to learn more about what's in their backyard. So what's here in Anson County, for them to meet different people and so forth. And then we actually have a male mentoring program, and we're hoping to kick that off with United Way with a male and female mentoring program there. So we got a lot of things going, and by way of my own experiences. And I would tell you, God told me to take a group of young men to Washington, D.C. And that was probably about in 2014-ish. And I listened, but I didn't take the first step. I didn't move on that. And I didn't move on that initiative until 2016. And this is my segue into kind of like my program of Village of Strength, because I found out I had stage 3 colorectal cancer on December 29th, 2015. And in 2016, I spent the first 8 months going through, surgery and chemotherapy. And I was like, oh, goodness. And I found out how aggressive it was, and that if I had waited 1 month, I wouldn't be here with y'all right now. So that's why, and then I finished my treatments on my birthday. So my birthday means much more to me than just like anything, because I was like, woo, child, I finished my treatment and I'm here. And I still have a lot of work to do. So after my treatments in 2016, I sat down and I was like, all right, I got to take these boys to DC, because, woo, that was a close one. And I wrote to Senator Burr and I said, why don't you be the great man that you are, and be the hero, and said all the nice superlatives. And sure enough, his office wrote back and said that we had an appointment at the Capitol, and that my request went to the White House and all the things. And at that point, I did not even have one young man, but I quickly got that. And we took 16 young boys to Washington, D.C. as part of our male mentoring program. And I wanted them, and this was 16 African-American boys, because we had an increase of a lot of Black boys dropping out, high illiteracy rate, you name it, teenage fathers, all the things. And we took these young boys to DC, and it was absolutely wonderful. So that started that program. And then I wanted to do more around support around cancer. And I heard people talk about in the community that they didn't have a support group. They had their prayer circle, but they didn't know anybody else that was going through what they had gone through or going through. And so we started Village of Strength, and I was like, okay, we'll have support groups. So I connected with the local hospital, and we had support groups at the hospital to help women and men get through their journey or continue their fight with cancer. And it also became a way for whoever is doing or whoever is going through lupus, or like I mentioned that because that's in my family as well, that they could come to the support groups also. So Village of Strength has taken on a whole new life, which is great. It's definitely I never wanted to have cancer. Never thought I would. Not that I was above all of that, but it has been surprisingly a blessing in my life. And it has helped me see different things around health equity. It has given me a new insight around healthy foods, also the food deserts. I mean, it has just morphed into a lot of things that I never would have thought that I would be dealing with and seeing and trying to advocate for.
Yeah. Okay. There was a lot there. And as much as I, stalked you beforehand, I did not realize the part about your cancer journey. So thank you for sharing that. And there's a lot there, and I am blatantly skipping over it, but that's amazing. And we have a whole advocacy arm and a whole relationship with our legislature. So bravo for reaching out to Senator Burr. And it's just a good example that you can just reach out and they are there. There are our representatives, and they will invite us. So that's amazing that you had that trip. Yeah. So now going back, because I know we only have a few minutes left, I want to combine your interest and because of our group, around chronic illness, around creating support. You also are geographically in a really interesting place. You're out in a rural part of North Carolina. What are some of the gems you've learned or ways that you've seen that you need to rally the group around both either serious illness, caregiving support, or trying to run an organization in a rural community? So there's a lot there.
There's a lot there. And I'm gonna try to get it all down. I would tell you, so moving back from Raleigh to Anson County, one that's huge. Because then it was easy for me to come home and then go back to the city, as folks like to say, and so I didn't see all the things that the community was going through until I came home for the pandemic. I decided I would come home. I would, isolate I didn't really isolate, but I guess, we quarantined together as a family. I didn't want to be by myself. I was like, I'll come home, be with my fam. And I was able to see then things that was happening, things that the lack of things, and that was around. So issues around broadband support, high cost for internet. I live in a community that there are a lot of senior citizens, and I call them my seasoned citizens. And they have, they're paying a lot around internet. And I'm like, this is crazy. And especially when they're not really certain about what they even have or understand that. And then access to fresh local produce. We have a lot of farms in this county, but the farm could be soybeans, it could be beef, it could be, produce, you name it, but there's a lot. But then we only have 2 grocery stores in the county. One is higher because they can price gouge, and that's what's been happening. So there's issues around that too. I mean, it's just a lot that's going on. So for me, I think I'm the savior of the world, but I recognize that I'm not. But I have to balance where I dip my toe into, that there are several little ponds that I can go into. But I in my heart, I want to save the world, and I want to do all the things and get the information, utilize my resources to take care and wipe out the issues that are happening. But I also can't do all the things, and I have to balance that. But one of the things that's very important to me, because it helped me, is, access to fresh and local produce. Now, mind you, I'm not a gardener, but I know that there is a way to do this, and it shouldn't be hard, but it has been hard. And it's educating the powers that be, our elected officials, around utilizing the ARP money and, try to eradicate food insecurity and doing that. So right now, our focus is on making sure people eat and they have access to food. And so luckily, we've been able to participate in the USDA program that took place when the pandemic hit. So we were giving out 1,200 to 1,300 boxes of food every week from August 11th. of 2020 until May of 2021. And then since then, we have been giving out food about every other week. So now, since May, we have been giving out food every week to our community. So we make sure it goes around to each municipality. And we've been doing that. And so it's a lot, but for us and for the foundation right now is to make sure that people eat, and we collaborate with the hospital and the local health department to give out recipes on that can be used with the produce that we give out every week. And we try to make sure that there are recipes that can be used in microwaves, because we have a lot of people who are staying in hotels. So we try to be thoughtful of everyone, but to make sure that people have access to local and fresh produce. We realize that can also make them healthy, that can help take care of those things that are concerning within our Village of Strength program.
All right, so we only have a few minutes left. So I want to combine two things that you said. So you're saving the world. And
yes,
you talked about the power of collaboration. And
yes.
I know your website also talks beautifully about the power of partnerships. How can we work together? Tell us more about how we could find ways to collaborate. So you've got the North Carolina Serious Illness Coalition. We represent communities all around North Carolina and looking specifically at serious illness issues. And we want to have a geographic diversity there, and so as well as lots of other things. What are ways that we could help with your next steps and vice versa?
Oh wow, it's so much, I think. So I'm just kind of spit it out.
Save the world.
Okay, save the world. So let's get that plan together. Okay, we're done. I think that having for me to have access to educational resources that I can provide to the community is huge for me. And I would tell you, so where I am right now, and I'm gonna say this really quick, we purchased a building last year and we renovated it, and it's now open. It's called the Caraway Business and Learning Center. Here is almost like a co-working space. So we have someone, renting office space. It's a community center. It's my office. It's those things. We have an office that's available that I'm looking for people to come in and be able to, to provide, I guess, office hours to share with the community. So that way the community could come in, speak to said person, to talk about whatever, to talk about veteran benefits, to talk about women health issues, to, just different things. But education is key. The knowledge around what's available is important to me to share with the community. That, again, we think it's easy because we are sitting here on Zoom, have internet, we got it. There are so many people that may have the internet, but they don't know how to use it or to get on Zoom and to do those things. And so to be able to have a place, even if I got may have to kill a tree, but to print out something to give it to them, so that way they have the information, is so important. And I think that having access to this organization to continue to provide education is great. And also, for me, I don't know all the things. I just know that my heart smiles when I help people and they smile and they're happy. I'm still, as many years as I've been doing this, I'm still learning how to be an executive director. I'm learning how to really run a successful nonprofit. And so anything that you guys can share, I heard that you guys are going to talk about grants. I'm still learning that. I don't have a grant writer. I have become the grant writer, and I've been blessed with receiving some grants. So if you know of something that could possibly work for me, throw it out at me. Don't self-eliminate me. Don't say, oh, she doesn't need it. I probably do. So, whatever you guys can do, will be very helpful.
Well, I'm already envisioning some next steps and already thinking of some really neat educational programs we can do in that extra space. I'm looking at you, advanced care planning, and having that critical conversations, as well as some caregiver and patient engagement work that we want to bring to community settings. So I'm so glad you have a space. I'm so glad you're an event planner and you can plan a successful event around it. And I think I speak for everyone at the coalition. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your mission and what you're doing, and we really appreciate it. And we're excited for you to be more involved with the coalition moving forward.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate it. Thanks so much, and it was great to see you, Anne. Thanks for inviting me, guys.